Well, pleasant day, children. It's great to see one and all, and I hope you'll enjoy this lesson. Let's begin with the introduction. The process of movement of substance is very important in a living body to ensure that each part of the body receives its proper share. You know that plants absorb water from the soil by their roots. This water is carried to the site of photosynthesis, that is, leaves by a specific system. On the other hand, the food that is prepared in the leaves is also transported to various parts of the plant body by another system. If we look at the animals, we will see the same kind of transport system. You know that the food is digested and absorbed in the digestive system. The food molecules are then transported to every cell of a living body. Oxygen too is carried to every cell, and carbon dioxide and other waste products are removed from the body. In this chapter, we will study how various substances are transported inside the bodies of plants and animals and how the waste materials are expelled from the body. Okay, now transport of substances in plants. You have learnt in the previous classes that depending upon the type of stem, plants are classified as herbs, shrubs, trees, climbers and creepers. Herbs. Now let's begin with the herbs. Herbs are the plants that are small and have soft and weak stem. Their stems are green and can manufacture food along with the leaves. Aromatic plants are used in preparing medicines. Then we have the shrubs. Shrubs are woody plants of relatively low height. They do not have thick woody trunk. Instead, they have several stems rising from their base. They do not grow as tall as trees. Oleander and roses, we all know what are roses, are the examples of shrubs. Then we have the lovely trees. Trees are the large woody plants having a main trunk and usually a distinct crown. I love greenery. I can go on and on about greenery. Have you noticed that the leaves have veins? Each vein is made up of specialized transport tissues called xylem and phloem. They help in transport of water and food materials respectively. These tissues are together called vascular bundles. Now coming to the xylem, as in this figure, let's have a look at this figure first, then I will explain. This is a figure which I'm going to draw. Now here is the xylem and here is the phloem, and this is the epidermis and this is the root hair. Did you get it? So now let's proceed. You are going to draw this structure, all right, children? And you're going to label the parts rather. Okay. Xylem is an important plant tissue that carries water and mineral salts from the roots to the leaves. It consists of bundles of pipes running along the main axis of stems and roots. The process of water transport through xylem is known as conduction. This movement of water through xylem is unidirectional. Long tubes of xylem are made up of individual cells that are joined end to end to give it a tubular structure. The water traveling through these tubes and the substances dissolved in it is called sap. The upward movement of water with dissolved minerals, sap, through the xylem tissues is called ascent of sap. Phloem. Phloem is an equally important plant tissue that carries food materials throughout the plant body. The movement of food, that is glucose, from leaves to the other body parts is called translocation. Food material is distributed through phloem in water-soluble form. Now, let's see this activity before we move further. Take a soft stem of any herbaceous plant. Cut a thin section of the stem using a scalpel blade. Take the help of your teacher while cutting the section. Now keep the section on a slide. Add a few drops of saffron in color on the section and leave it for 2 to 3 minutes. Mount the section and observe it under the microscope. This we will have to do in the lab, children. Okay, so let's see. If at all I happen to get some video clipping on this, I'll definitely share with you. You will see a red colored ring on the section. This is vascular bundle. It consists of xylem and phloem. Now coming to transpiration, you may have seen gardeners watering plants every day, sometimes twice a day on a hot summer day. Do you know what happens to this water? Do plants really need so much water? Plants absorb much more water through their roots than what is required for photosynthesis. The excess water is lost in vapor form by the process of transpiration. This process occurs to the tiny openings called stomata that are present on the leaf surface. Now let's go to activity number 2. This activity will help you understand transpiration. You need a potted plant, a polythene sheet, a big bell jar and a plate. Keep the potted plant on the place and on the plate and enclose the soil of the pot with the polythene sheet. This ensures that no water will evaporate from the soil. Now cover the entire setup with a big bell jar. Leave it for 5 to 6 hours in sunlight. You will see tiny droplets of water on the inner surface of the bell jar. This water comes from the plant since the soil is completely covered. This activity proves that plants give out water during transpiration. This is a potted plant with soil and the soil of the pot enclosed with the polythene back sheet inside the bell jar. Now this experiment you can really experience when you really do it. Okay, now let's see what this Do You Know has in store for us. 2 physiological processes, namely diffusion and osmosis, help in the process of transport. The movement of particles from a region of its higher concentration to a region of its lower concentration is called diffusion. Diffusion is the major method by which the transport of materials occurs in unicellular organisms. The movement of water molecules across a semi-permeable membrane from a region of its higher concentration to a region of its lower concentration is called osmosis. Water enters the roots by this process. Now let's move further to the transport of substances in animals. Animals cannot manufacture food in their body, but they need to transport food and oxygen to all the parts of the body. Unicellular animals like amoeba do not have any specialized system to carry their food materials. Every part of their body gets the food materials by the process of diffusion. Let's move further. Multicellular organisms have a specialized circulatory system to transport food and oxygen to the parts of their body and remove carbon dioxide and other waste products from the body. The human circulatory system. This is the human circulatory system. I want you to do the sketch and label the parts such as heart, the veins, and arteries. Circulatory system is a transport system which helps in the movement of substances throughout our body. Blood is the medium of transport in our circulatory system. This system consists of heart, blood vessels and blood. Now going to the heart. Heart is a 4-chambered muscular organ that pumps blood to all the parts of the body. Our heart is located in the chest cavity towards the left. 2/3 of the heart is located to the left of the midline of the body and 1/3 to the right. There are three layers on the heart. They are named as endocardium, myocardium, and pericardium. The four chambers of the heart are right auricle, left auricle, right ventricle, and the left ventricle. The right chambers of the heart are completely separated from the left chambers. The blood flowing in the right and the left part of the heart does not mix. The right auricle is connected with the right ventricle and the left auricle is connected with the left ventricle. Each of the chambers has one tiny valve at its exit. This prevents blood from flowing backwards. When each chamber contracts, the valve at its exit opens and allows the blood to come into the next chamber. The valves close at the end of each contraction so that blood cannot flow backward. The two veins from various parts of the body empty blood into the right auricle. Now this is the figure of the human heart. I want you to draw it. I remember also drawing it when I was like y'all. Okay? And label the various parts like the aorta, pulmonary artery, aortic valve, mitral valve, the left auricle, the right auricle, the left ventricle and the right ventricle. Okay, these are the pulmonary veins. This is the tricuspid valve. This is the inferior vena cava. Okay, I love biology. Okay, from here the blood enters the right ventricle and is pumped into the pulmonary artery. Through this artery, blood is carried to the lungs. The oxygen poor blood becomes oxygen rich in the lungs. The oxygen rich, that is the oxygenated blood, now returns to the heart from the lungs by the pulmonary valve vein and enters the left auricle. When the left auricle contracts, blood is pumped into the left ventricle, from where it is pumped into the main artery of the body. The main artery distributes this oxygen-rich blood to all parts of the body. The right and the left sides of the heart have different functions. The right side of the heart collects oxygen deficient, that is deoxygenated blood from the body and pumps it into the lungs to take up oxygen. On the other hand, the left hand side of the heart collects oxygen, that is oxygenated blood from the lungs and pumps it to every part of the body. The rhythmic contractions and relaxations of the heart muscles is called a heartbeat. A normal heart beats about 72 times a minute. We can hear a heartbeat with the help of an instrument called stethoscope. When the heart muscle contracts or beats, it pumps blood out of the heart. The heart contracts in two stages. In the first stage, the right and the left auricles contract simultaneously, pumping blood to the right and the left ventricles respectively. Then the right and the left ventricles contract to propel blood out of the heart. Then the heart muscles relax before the next heartbeat. This allows blood to enter into the heart again. As a heart pumps blood, we can feel a throbbing sensation at different parts of our body like the wrist, the neck or upper arm. This throbbing sensation is called pulse. This is a stethoscope. We all have seen it, right? Now let's see what this Do You Know has in store for us. Our heart beats over 1 lakh times in one day, and in 1 year it beats about 38 million times. Now this is news, isn't it? Goodness me. Let's go to activity 3. Place your palm. Now this is what you to feel the heartbeat. What are you going to do? Place your palm on the left of your friend's chest. Do you feel the same heart is beating with a regular rhythm? Now place your ear at the same place. What do you hear? A distinct sound is heard. It is known as heartbeat. To measure the pulse, how can we measure the pulse? Place your index and the middle finger over the underside of the wrist of your friend as shown in the picture. Can you feel your friend's artery throbbing? Count the number of throbs in 1 minute. Ask your friend to run up a flight of stairs. Then again feel the pulse. Does his pulse rate increase? We will have to find out. Now let's go further. You might have seen that the doctor holds the wrist of a sick person. He notes the pulse by feeling the pressure of the movement of blood through the arteries at the wrist. The average heart beats per minute is called pulse rate. The average heartbeat per minute is called what? Pulse rate. However, when we exercise or become angry or excited, the pulse rate goes up. It also goes up during fever. Now coming to the blood vessels. Blood flows in our body through a network of tubes called blood vessels. In our body, there are 3 types of tubes, that is the arteries, veins and capillaries. Arteries carry oxygen-rich blood from our heart to different parts of our body, and veins carry oxygen-deficient blood from different organs of our body to the heart. A network of capillaries forms connection between the arteries and the veins. Arteries lie deep in the tissues, whereas veins lie closer to the surface of the skin. Veins can be seen as greenish blue lines on our hands and legs. Okay, now these are the arteries and the veins. I want you to draw this sketch and label the various parts. That is the arterial capillaries. This is the arteriole. These are the venous capillaries, and this is the venule. Got it, children? Now let's see the difference between the arteries and the veins. Arteries carry blood away from the heart. Veins carry blood to the heart. They carry oxygenated blood except pulmonary artery. They carry deoxygenated blood except the pulmonary vein. They are deeply placed under the skin. They lie closer to the skin surface. There are no valves inside the arteries. There are a series of valves inside the veins. Now let's go to blood. Blood is a red colored fluid flowing inside the blood vessels. It is the medium through which various nutrients, important gases and waste products are transported inside our body. Blood vessels constitute about 8% of our body weight. Blood consists of a liquid part called plasma and the cells are corpuscles. There are 3 types of blood cells: the red blood cells or RBCs, white blood cells or WBCs, and platelets. Red blood cells are flat-shaped cells with a depression in the center. They lack nucleus and are formed in the bone marrow. They contain a red-colored pigment called hemoglobin. Hemoglobin binds with oxygen and transports it to all the parts of the body. White blood cells do not have hemoglobin. They are larger than the red blood cells and are nucleated. They destroy the disease-causing germs and hence protect our body against various infections. Now coming to the platelets. Platelets are small irregular structures. They are colorless like the white blood cells and do not contain nucleus. The platelets help in clotting of blood. Functions of the circulatory system. This system helps in the transportation of food and oxygen to each and every cell of the body. This system removes the waste products from each cell and carries them to the specialized organs like the kidneys. This system protects the blood against infection by destroying the harmful germs. This system prevents blood loss during an injury by clotting. This system also helps in the maintenance of constant body temperature. You got to remember all the functions, okay, children? In fact, I want you to read it over and over again and you will know it directly. Anybody can ask you any question and will come your reply. Okay? Types of blood cells. These are the red blood cells. How they look. These are the platelets. And this is how the white blood cells look. This is the blood vessel and this is the plasma. I want you to do this sketch, children. Now let's move further to the do you know. Let's see what's something exciting there. The pumping heart gives high pressure in the arteries. This is called blood pressure. Blood pressure rises if the heart beats at a faster pace or if the arteries become narrower. Constant high blood pressure is harmful for the heart and can cause heart attack. Now let's move further to the excretory system. A number of chemical reactions that take place inside a living body, and during these reactions a variety of waste products are produced. The metabolic waste products are of no use to the cells. Since they are toxic in nature, they must be removed from the living body. Let's proceed further. The process of elimination of metabolic waste products is called excretion. The organ system responsible for the excretion of waste is called the excretory system. Now let's see to the excretion in plants. The main excretory products of a plant are discussed here. Carbon dioxide. Like animals, plants also release carbon dioxide, which is produced during the respiration at night. Excess water. Water is a byproduct of respiration. Excess water is removed from plants by transpiration. Excess salt. Sometimes plants absorb excessive salt from the soil as it is mixed with water. Excess salt is also deposited in the plant body as crystals. Then we have rubber, resin and latex. Rubber, resin and latex are the waste products of many older plants. We use them to make paints, gums and varnishes. Okay, now let's see to the excretion in animals. Some of the food that we eat is not used by the body. This undigested food is a waste product. During respiration, water and carbon dioxide are produced as waste. Urea is another waste. It is produced while digesting protein. Nitrogenous waste materials are the principal excretory products of animals. They are formed as the end product of protein metabolism. The three main nitrogenous waste materials excreted by animals are ammonia, urea and uric acid. Ammonia is the most toxic substance formed in the bodies of animals. In unicellular organisms like amoeba, paramecium, hydra, etc., metabolic wastes are removed through the body surface. By diffusion, earthworms, insects and leeches have a special tubular structures to remove their waste products. Higher animals like mammals, including human beings, have a well-developed excretory system. Okay, now the following organs help us to get rid of the waste products that we will see in a while. Now this is how a paramecium looks under microscope. Now let's have a look at this scientist. He's a very well known. It's William Harvey. In 1578 he was born and lived up to 1657. Human blood circulation was discovered by the English physician William Harvey. He studied at the University of Cambridge, UK and the University of Padua, Italy. By profession, Harvey was a medical practitioner in London. He carried out dissections on the bodies of executed criminals to study blood circulation. His famous book, Anatomical Essay on the Motion of the Heart and Blood in Animals, which was published then in 1628, describes heart as the organ responsible for pumping blood. Harvey's work laid the groundwork for modern physiology. So he is a great English physician, children. Please do thorough research on him by surfing the net. It will be great if you will, make a mini booklet on him, a mini series on him. All right. We move further to lungs, that is the organs which help us to get rid of the waste products. First one is lung. Carbon dioxide and water vapor produced during respiration are excreted by lungs. Skin. Small amounts of urea, salts and excess water are excreted by the skin. The main excretory organs are the kidneys that produce urine to remove the waste products. Now let's see what does do you know have in store for us. Following are the excretory organs of some of the animals. Flatworms, the excretory organ is Protonephrida. Earthworms, Nephrida. Insects, Malefigian tubules. Malefigian tubules. Crayfish are the green glands. Okay, excretory organ in crayfish is the green glands. Now this is the structure of the human excretory system. I want you to draw this structure. These are the this is the vena cava, aorta, the renal vein, the abdomen, renal artery. These are the kidneys, urethra, bladder, and urethra. Now the human excretory system. The excretory system in human beings is composed of one pair of kidneys and a pair of uterus that carry urine, a pair of ureters that carry urine, a urinary bladder that stores urine, and the urethra which throws out the urine. The kidneys are dark red bean-shaped organs located against the back wall of the abdominal cavity. There are 2 kidneys in our body, and each weighs about 120 to 150 grams. Each kidney consists of a large number of coiled tubes called nephrons. Nephrons filter waste products from the blood. A nephron looks like a small cup or funnel with a long tube attached to it. There is a mesh of capillaries in each of these cups. Water and waste such as urea and salt filter into the cups from the blood in the capillaries. The clean blood leaves the kidneys while the waste flow into the small tubes of the nephrons. The small tubes join up to form bigger tubes, which in turn join the urethras. The waste materials collected in the kidneys form the liquid urine. Dialysis. The kidneys purify our blood by removing waste products through urine. If the kidneys become diseased and cease functioning, the blood gets poisoned and the patient dies. The only way to deal with kidney failure is to transplant a healthy kidney obtained from a donor or a donated kidney from a person who has recently died. Kidney failures can also be treated by artificial methods as much as possible. The technique of removing waste products artificially from the blood is called dialysis. In dialysis, blood from the artery in the arm or leg is drawn into the dialysis machine and purified. Blood is fed into a vein. Let's move further. The person requiring dialysis has to undergo an 8-hour session connected to the dialysis machine every 2 or 3 days. The dialysis machine is also called an artificial kidney. Dialysis is an exhaustive and expensive process. Children, kidney dialysis, do research on it. Have a look at the link about it on the video. It is really, really painful. It's exhausting, but the person goes through tremendous pain. Okay, this is the dialysis machine, and this is how the dialysis process takes place. The entire explanation is over here. All right, you can go through it, but let me tell you, it's the most painful experience. And imagine sitting for 8 hours for this process. Goodness me. Do you know, let's see what this do you know has in store for us. The yellow color of the urine is due to the presence of pigment called urochrome. This pigment is formed from the hemoglobin of dead red blood cells. Urine normally consists of water and urea. Glucose generally is not present in the urine. Presence of glucose in urine indicates that the person may be suffering from diabetes. Now, let's see the activity 4. Take a thistle funnel, a beaker having some water, sugar solution, a clamp stand, a piece of thread and an egg membrane. Pour the sugar solution in the thistle funnel. Cover the mouth of the funnel with the egg membrane and tie it with thread. Now, invert this funnel arrangement in a beaker. Mark the funnel where the sugar solution reaches. Leave the arrangement for 10 minutes. You will observe that the level of sugar solution rises in the thistle funnel. The egg membrane is semi-permeable in nature and it allows only water molecules to pass from its higher concentration to its lower concentration. Thus, the water level rises in the funnel. This is exactly how the water molecules move in during dialysis. Okay, let's move further to the points to remember. All living organisms need food, water and oxygen for their survival. Plants have a well-developed vascular system. The vascular system consists of xylem and phloem. Plants lose excess water by transpiration. Food is translocated by phloem from leaves to the parts of the body. In unicellular organisms, transport of food occurs by diffusion. In higher multicellular organisms, transport of food occurs through a well-developed circulatory system. The human circulatory system consists of heart, blood vessels and blood. Blood consists of lipid plasma and blood cells. The red color of blood is due to the pigment called hemoglobin. In unicellular organisms, excretion takes place through the general body surface. The major excretory organ of a human being is the kidney. Excretory system in human beings consists of pair of kidneys, ureter, urinary bladder and urethra. A number of tubes called nephrons are present in each kidney. Now let's read the important definitions. What is diffusion? The movement of molecules from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. What is xylem? It's conducting tissues that transport water from the roots to the leaves in plants are called xylem. What is phloem? Conducting tissues that transport food from leaves to all the parts of the body in plants. What is conduction? The transport of water by xylem tissue. What is ascent of sap? Upward movement of water and minerals in plants. What is osmosis? The movement of water molecules from the region of higher concentration to the lower concentration across a semi-permeable membrane. What is translocation? It is the transport of food material from leaves to the other parts of a plant. What is transpiration? It is loss of excess water from aerial parts of a plant through stomata. What is vascular bundle? The xylem and the phloem tissues that help the transport of substances in plants. What is dialysis? The technique of removing waste products artificially from the blood. What is excretion? The process of elimination of metabolic waste products. Children, I hope you really enjoyed the lesson. Go through this talk again and again, through this lesson again and again, and let everything seep into you. And let me tell you that science is a very, very easy subject. Okay? Have a nice day. Thank you.